eat things I was supposed to. So this is happening to someone that maybe it shouldn't have. Or we don't know that now. But anyway, I woke up at 2:30 on a early Thursday morning with chest pain. It hurt all the way down in my arm. I thought, this is strange, I've slept on it wrong. And I roll over on my back, and then I realized it wasn't what I slept on. It was a different kind of pain. So I get up thinking I have indigestion. I've never had indigestion before. Never. I don't have heartburn. So I went into my cabinet to get some Tums, and when I did, I broke out in just a crummy old yucky sweat. And when I did, I thought to myself, something's not right. So I go to wake up Jeremy, and I tell him, I said, my chest hurts. And the more part was that it hurt down my arm. And that just didn't seem good. But at the same time, I'm 39 years old. I have indigestion. So he has to convince me to go to the ER. Because he got a WebMD, which if you've ever been on WebMD, they'll tell you to go to the ER over paper cut. So I wasn't very excited about that. And I said, I don't want to go to the ER for them to tell me it's indigestion. How embarrassing. Well, the pain continued to get worse, especially as I got dressed. And by the time I got dressed and had decided to go and made arrangements for Carter and Emma, I got very ill, where I started vomiting. And at that point, I knew something wasn't right. So I went to the ER, and of course, you walk in and you're 39 years old, and your blood pressure is still just as steady, and your pulse is great. Everything looks great about you, except I'm telling them on the inside, it hurts. And so they proceed to give me some medicine and to help that and start running tests. And they ran a battery of tests on me. All great. All of them told me how healthy I was, except I had a little bit of low potassium. That was it. That wasn't unusual, actually. But she said, and our first blessing came when the doctor said, so you're just not normal. You're not leaving. Can you stay for a couple hours so I can do some more tests? It's 4 o'clock in the morning, sure. We're not going anywhere. So I ran the next round of tests, and the entire time that I was in the ER versus the hospital, the only thing that was ever out of the ordinary were my heart enzymes, which showed some kind of distress in my heart. And at that time, if she would have looked at all those tests at 2 hours before that 2-hour test, I would have been sent home. Instead, she chose to do this, even though it wasn't normal, So she did it. It was elevated, and she said, now I want you to stay for another 2 hours. Again, EKGs, CTs, everything was just fine. So I said, okay. So by that time, she's off duty, and the next doctor comes in, and he says, I said, oh, did they go down? He goes, no. And I said, oh, are they still within normal range? He goes, no. You're going to the big house, which he meant to Erlanger. Okay. I had previously never been to the doctor except to have 2 children, absolutely healthy, easy children, labor and delivery. I had been put to sleep one time when I was 14 to have my wisdom teeth cut out. So for them to discuss taking me by life force versus ambulance, you can imagine my anxiety level and how extremely scared I was. Because I went in what I thought was with indigestion, and never in a million years. Well, they decide that I can wait. I don't have to take the bird over, and I can ride in the ambulance, which was enough stress as it was. But I get to the hospital, and so the rest of Thursday night, they decide they're not going to do anything. I'm not going to have anything else done, and they're just going to watch me. And at this time, my pain only lasted a few hours. So by the time I'm at the hospital, I'm just mad I'm missing Emma's ball game. And I kept thinking, if they have the cath, can I get there in time? Because most of you know how important they are to me. And the fact that I was away from them. So they said, no, you're here to stay. So the next morning, they scheduled me for my, my echo and some ultrasound, and I think I had another x-ray or something. Again, all's well. But that night, it would have been Thursday night, early Friday morning, I had finally gotten off to sleep. And again, I'd probably been 14, 15 hours pain-free. And just more aggravated that I was there than anything. And I woke up again out of a dead sleep. And this time my pain was so severe that I looked at Jeremy and I said, you've got to get the nurse. And they struggled all night to manage my pain. They did not know what to do with me. More than once I got told, this is not supposed to be happening to you. you're an anomaly. I've told them the other day I got called an anomaly again. I said, if one more person tells me that, I'm going to punch them. Because obviously it does happen. I'm here. But I understand they were frustrated just as much as me. I met my doctor, and, we talk about where we put our trust and our faith. And the first time we met my cardiologist, and again, it's still surreal for me, but he comes in and he sits down. He says, I don't have a clue what's wrong with you. That's not very reassuring. But he says, you're not leaving until I do. So I felt very blessed that he was humble enough to say that, because I actually have the honor of having the chief cardiologist at Erlanger, and he was very good in the sense that he told me where he was in his thinking, why he was thinking that, but I didn't necessarily know the answer. He understood Jeremy and I's faith. Tom and everybody was there praying as well. And so we proceed to go have the last of the echo. We're Friday morning. I'm supposed to have a cath. The cath is where they put it in your arm to see if there's any blockages. He said, I hate to have to do this to you. It's my last resort because, I don't think it's a blockage. I don't think there's anything wrong in there. I think it's an infection around your heart. But I can't send you home and not know without a shadow of a doubt. So, he tells me the risk of the cath, and I'm like, okay. I was so excited they were going to get to go through my arm and not the groin, because that meant I could be at Emma's ball game. Because I wouldn't have to lay on my back for 4 hours. And so I'm going in it just thinking this is just a trivial thing. I'll be done in just a second and we get to go home. I get in the cath, and I don't know if you're familiar with the process, but you're laying there, and there's several people, about 15 or 20 people around you at the time, and you are awake, but you're not very coherent. And they introduce me, tell themselves, and tell me what they're going to do. And you're awake because you have to breathe at certain times and stuff like that. And so he proceeds the procedure, the doctor does. And it wasn't but a few minutes, and he said, Miss Bradford, we have a problem. Well, no, we don't, because I'm going to go home. And so he looks at me and he says, we found a blockage, which ended up being not necessarily a blockage so much as my main coronary artery was clamped down. For some reason, it was spasming. So he goes, we're going to do a stent. I hear him order all the stuff. He says, okay, I'm now proceeding with the stent. I felt it. I felt some pain, and then they said, give her some more medicine. And the next little bit's a little blurry. That's where Jeremy comes in. But I do remember him saying to me, Miss Bradford, we've had another problem. When your stent hit your artery, it was frail for some reason, and it basically dissected and pulled away from your heart. So you're going to surgery. And most of you know I'm a pessimist. But for some reason, through this situation, I'm an optimist. So I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, there's another kind of surgery. There doesn't have to be open heart surgery. Because most of you know I went through that with my grandmother, and she had every complication, so I didn't want to think that side of it. Well, everybody leaves. There's 15 people in the room, and they all leave me on that table by myself. I'm just looking. I didn't cry. I didn't get mad. I just kept thinking, shaking my head. I remember shaking my head. No, it's not. So finally I realized there is one other person in there with me. She's at my feet and I can't see her. So I said, does he mean open heart surgery? Still being optimistic. She said, she just grabbed my hand. I'll never forget. She grabbed my hand, patted my shoulder, and she said, yes. And I'm like, oh no. Well, they proceed to come in and tell me, what's going to happen. I remember thinking, how could this be? How could this be happening? I knew then it had to be done immediately, so I went straight from the cath to the OR. Again, because of the medicine that I was on, I remember very much clearly, and Jeremy will tell you, pretty much the only thing I said for the next 48 hours are, where are my babies? And that was pretty much what I said, do I get to see them before I get to go to surgery and stuff like that? But I do, remember having the sense to say, well, we have to do this. I don't have a choice. We'll go to it. And most people wouldn't think that going into surgery was a blessing, but I told my mom afterwards, the way it happened, it had to be a blessing. I would have never chose this. And if I'd had more than 5 minutes to think about it, I wouldn't have chose it. I might have put it off. I might have endangered my life. God knew me well enough to knew that how much I'm a control freak, and he didn't give me a choice in the matter. Plus, I didn't have time for all my mind to go probably in a million directions it's gone since then. This is where Jeremy's going to pick up this story because, as you know, you're not awake during open heart surgery, so I'll let him tell the rest.
I'm going to pick up a little bit before the surgery because we're back in the room waiting to hear on what the cat was going to say about Christa, and we felt like we'd gotten pushed around a lot, and we'd gotten bumped a lot. They had 2 emergency fly-ins before Christa's cath was scheduled, and so we felt like because she wasn't fitting the norm, we were getting pushed to the side, and so but you'll learn that when I get through with this that it was for a reason. So we're waiting back there in the room patiently, and Dr. Campbell, he told us before they sent her back that 25 minutes we'll have her sedated, 25 minutes we'll find out if she has a blockage, and we'll give you a call. And so 50 minutes rolled around, and we're back there waiting in the room, and we didn't get a call. And you get a little bit concerned. So about 10 more minutes went around, and I went to the nurse's station. I was kind of aggravated, not having sleep 2 days, and I asked the nurse, I said, have you heard anything on Christa Bradford? And they said, I said, she went back to the stent, and we haven't heard anything. And I said, we were supposed to hear something within 50 minutes. And they said, who told you that? And I said, well, Dr. Campbell. And he told us, he goes, he's not the one doing the stent. And they said, if you'll go back to the room, they'll give you a call. Well, they come back to the room, they give us a call, and they said, we did find the blockage. And they said, give us about 30 more minutes, and we're going to get it fixed. Well, before the 30 minutes was even up, Dr. Campbell comes back in, and he says, we've got to rush your wife to emergency surgery. We've already called in the team, and we're fixing to have to do our surgery. At this point in time, I was so upset that I told him I didn't believe another word he said. And I told him to get out of my face. My brother-in-law was there, my mom and dad. I was so upset. I didn't believe anything I had to say. And so, but he kept telling me, he said, you got to calm down. He said, you got to get back there to your wife and get ready to see her. And at this point, because we were told that the kids, she was getting ready to go home, my sister was bringing my kids over. They hadn't seen their mother in 2 days, and they were getting ready to, we were going to be a family again. So all these thoughts are running through my head, and they get us back there to the cath lab. And what I'm thinking is I could be a single dad. With 2 kids. How is this happening? And so we're back there with Christa. A lot of laws were broken. My sister ran a lot of red lights to get my kids there to see their mother. A lot of firsts happened at Erlang. They let the kids come back to the cath lab. We get back there. Brother Tom's there. Everybody's there. And, you ask that question, why? Why is this happening? And one of the doctors, they pulled me to the side, and you have to sign the papers. Christa's not able to sign the papers. She received blood, and can we do this surgery? At that point in time, I've been told so much. I said, all I can do, is I need to pray. They said, here you go. They sent me to another cath lab, and I dropped to my knees right then. And I said, God, all I have is you. I have nothing else. I give it all to you. This is my best friend. This is my wife. This is my kid's mother. And I said, I have nothing else. They get ready for to ship her back to the OR, and by this time, we probably have about 15 or 20 of us in the cath area. And Brother Tom's in there, and I go to Brother Tom and I said, Brother Tom, what have I done? You know, why? What have I done to upset God? And he said, that's the human side of us. And I went back to my kids, we prayed, and I said, it's all right to ask why. And this is how strong my 13-year-old is. She said, why not? Why not, Mom? And I'm like, why? You know, what faith she had. So, we're getting ready to go back to the OR, and I mean, they're telling us, Dr. Campbell's telling us that, you know, we're not getting number one. Number one was Dr. Hedricks. He did the first open heart surgery, and they told us in the nation we were getting his son. So I thought,